Of course, no problem at all.
Okay.
Good evening, Lina. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. With great enthusiasm, I'm pleased to welcome you all on behalf of the US Meat Export Federation to this special webinar, which we are delighted to do it with Luminus Technical University College in Jordan. Our collaboration with Luminus is not new. We've been working with the Luminus, Mrs. Susan, Chef Darine, and the team for over 4 years. And we are looking forward to our continued collaboration with them and partnership. During the pandemic, all of us are adapting to new lifestyle and a new normal, which is very challenging. But you, as the future chefs and the future of the hospitality industry, are in dire need for practical learning and technical upgrading of your culinary knowledge and skills. Thus, our webinar today is unique and valuable for all of you, as we got the opportunity and honor to have with us today from overseas one of the top experts in US beef and a global chef who's going to share with you his knowledge, life experience, and cooking passion. His biography and presentation is already provided to you along with our US beef infographics. Thanks to Chef Darine for doing and for organizing this webinar. Thank you, Chef Darine. And I'm sure,
You're welcome.
I'm very sure it's gonna be fun tonight. I wish you a great and entertaining educational webinar with Chef John, who is here with us. And we are really glad and happy to be listening to you, Chef John. The platform is yours, but before you start, I want to tell the ladies and gentlemen that I'm gonna be the moderator with Chef Darine. Please ask any question. Feel free to interact with Chef John, to relax and enjoy the webinar with him. Okay?
Yeah.
So, Chef John, the platform is yours.
Thank you very much. All right. Can everybody can hear me okay? I'm assuming, yeah, no problem at all. Everyone can hear me? Okay, well, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for joining me at my home. I'm so excited that the USMEF has brought me here to be able to cook from my own home. I am wearing a very nice jacket, but underneath I'm only wearing my shorts and I got sandals on. So it's very nice to be here and to be able to do that for you. And it's great because I get to talk about what I love, and that's American beef. I just realized that I was speaking very quickly, so I'm gonna try and slow my speaking down. You can see all my beautiful knives up here on the wall. I take care of all my things, and right outside the door, unfortunately, I had to close off the window, but I also have chickens. I raise my own chickens now, and I have my own, the egg that I'm gonna be cooking with today is from my own garden. And it's really, it's an interesting sort of, I don't know if it's called an allegory or a simile, but it's what I really believe is what highlights American beef. And you all have my presentation, and to go through the presentation would take a long time. And like Lina said, this is a new world. So if anyone wants to talk more about beef, Lina's already been to many presentations that I give. I can talk for hours and hours and hours about beef. So I'm going to give you a few highlights in this one. We're going to cook a little bit of stuff here, and I'm going to show you how the way I cook beef and the way I approach beef. But the whole American beef story, really, when you talk about sustainability, is the whole system is sustainable, because when you're after quality beef, which is what, as a chef, what we're always after is a high quality product. So you have a high quality product, but what drives quality? Well, treating an animal excellently, making sure that it's well fed, that its genetics are top notch, that it's fed, that it's spent time on the grass, spent time with his mother, raised in the perfect settings. When you reduce that stress on the animal, and when you raise an animal properly, you get a higher quality, and therefore the farmer gets more money for his cattle. So already the farmer in the American model is pushing to get only quality beef because he knows he'll make more money selling quality. Secondly, he wants 93% of all farms in the United States that raise cattle are family-owned farms. So therefore, they want to pass all these farms on to their children as well. So utmost respect is taken to the land and caring for the land and the environment, making sure that it's going to be passed on for generations to generations. And then when we finally get it to a processor, luckily, all the beef that's coming over to you guys is going to be halal. And I firmly believe is that when you spend a little bit more time on the slaughter of animals and you pay respect for that animal's life, you get a much, much better product. And that changes things completely for me, is that when the whole system around the animal is created and made to make high quality US beef, and that's what you see on a plate. And that's what we get for consistency and quality. And Lina was asking me what she said, cook like Chef John and do a presentation, cook like Chef John. And I'm trying to figure out what do I cook like? But what I always try and do is use the whole animal, because that's what's so important these days, is being able to maximize the whole animal and maximize at the same time maximize our profits in the restaurant industry as well. So, and a really, really super versatile cut is the chuck. This is a big piece of muscle here, but that's a nice big piece of chuck. And that comes up right from the ribeye up into the shoulder, and it moves a lot. All that shoulder muscle, it moves a lot. And when you move that muscle, you develop flavor. But because of practices about 100 years ago that have stuck with us, we get a whole range of things that we can do with a chuck. So whenever all you chefs, remember when you pick up a knife, pick up a steel, all right? Because we always want to make sure that we have a nice, sharp knife to start with, okay? So right here on the animal, if you can see right here, hold it up for you, right there. It's hard to see, but you have coming right into the ribeye. And there's actually a restaurant in the United States called Delmonico Steakhouse. And this is actually the Delmonico steak. And the first cut that you can take off of this ribeye, of this chuck, is actually, when you trim it down, is a beautiful ribeye. And you see all that beautiful marbling.
Chef John, one of the students is asking a question, right?
Okay.
Hamadallah?
It's Ahmed. Yes.
Okay, Ahmed, please ممكن تعيد سؤالك? Chef John, one of the students is asking a good question. Please, ممكن تعيد أحمد سؤالك لو سمحت?
I will. Thank you, Chef. Since we are against the factory farming and calling for the sustainability, is there any laws that control these factory farming issues?
In the United States,
yes,
definitely.
for example, they will kill cows and keep veals for the meat, as cows will not produce for them any meat and just for milk.
Well, there will be some, there are very, very strict laws on what can go into the human food chain, that's for sure. No animal that can walk, it has to be able to walk to be able to go to slaughter. So that's the first thing. You can't have a non-ambulatory cow. So there is a lot of controls when it comes to what can be slaughtered. But a lot of that meat is what you're talking about is going to be what we would call commodity beef. That would go into canned food and to very, very cheap grinds. I'm not going to name any restaurants, but you know, when you see food for just a couple of dinars or a couple of pounds or a couple of euros for a burger or something like that, you have to understand that that's very, very cheap production. And that's not what I do, and that's not what I'm involved with. And the beef that the United States Meat Export Federation, all the beef that comes over to that gets exported from the United States is all the highest quality, because they know that's what it's based on, is based on quality, and the amount of rigorous regulations that are in place to get beef out of the country, it's really, really intense, the amount of controls. But very, very good question. I don't deal with that kind of food. But what we're looking for is all this beautiful marbling right here, right? That's all kind of trace fat. And that's, you'll see in the presentation, when you feed an animal, a lot of, when it's a happy animal, when it feeds on grass for a long time, when it feeds on a high carbohydrate diet near the end, it'll put on a lot of marbling, and that marbling will actually make the meat tender. And that's what the idea of what we have in our brains is what tender beef is. So there's actually another one right here. It's really, this one's a really, really great piece. It's got really two nice, big, beautiful steaks on it. So I've already made myself, I used to sell this in my restaurant, in my steak restaurant. So the rest of this, you can grind up a whole chuck into a burger. It works fantastically. It's got about 20% fat, which is the magic number for a burger. You want about 80% lean, 20% fat. But if you sell that as a steak, you can make top dollar on that. I used to sell that for 30 pounds in our restaurants in London. So I've got 2 steaks now that I can sell at top dollar, and I haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. And none of this would go in the garbage either. All the fat, I did this a couple of years ago. It was really, really fun. Is I melted all my fat, and then I made candles out of them. And I would put a little bit of rosemary and around the beef fat or on the candle wick, and the whole restaurant would smell like roast beef. It was super fantastic. So now you can see really, big piece. Oh. Now you can see, look at, oh, that beautiful marbling, oh, that big, beautiful marbling, all that trace marbling.
What a nice marbling.
Very nice.
Exactly.
And guys,
and
ladies, marbling is the key word for US beef. It's the unique characteristics for this particular beef.
And I'm just going to take
and don't mix up between the marbling and the fat, because the marbling is the very, very good fat that melts inside the meat and gives it its flavor. يعني الماربلينج مش هو مشلوش. يعني عم بستعمل العربي بس لأنه
يس بليز. انا كنت بدي احكي لهم شباب القطعه اللي عم بعملها هلا الشيف هي التشاك، واحنا حكينا كثير عن التشاك اذا بتتذكروا، وحكينا قديش هي فيها المسلز من كتر الحركه، وبس هاي المسلز كمان من كتر الحركه ايش بتعمل؟ it will develop the flavors، بتعزز النكهه. هذا الحكي كلياته حكيناه. الماربلينج، الفرق بين الماربلينج والفاشا او السيلفر سكين فرق كتير كبير. الماربلينج اللي هو الفات اللي بيعطينا المويستشر، بيعطينا التندرنس، Look at this amazing marbling. Here you go.
And this is what they call the Denver short ribs. So you can actually cook this like a short rib. You can braise it. You can actually cut it really, really thin and do it shabu shabu style or yakiniku over a hot flame if you wanted to dip it into it. But you can sous vide that for 2 days and it becomes tender like butter, right? It's that's why the chuck is such an amazing piece of meat.
Chef John, can I interrupt you by saying that the Denver steak is where our office and headquarters are. Denver is in Colorado, and this is where the US Meat Export Federation headquarters are. And this is why we are doing this also webinar on behalf of the US Meat Export Federation. I'm sure you've read the biography of Chef John, right? So did you notice that Chef John is the global ambassador for the US Meat Export Federation? عندكم فكرة أنه شيف جون هو سفير اتحاد مصدري اللحوم الأمريكية globally يعني عالميا؟ ما بعرف إذا بليز حدا يجاوبنا إذا عم تسمعوني.
شباب يس أكيد قرأوه بالبايو تبع الشيف جون أكيد.
Chef John, I was trying to test them if they've read your biography. And, So what's the title of the webinar tonight? What's the topic of the webinar, guys? يلا one voice. صوت واحد.
يلا go ahead.
شو عنوان الويبينار؟
Nice.
Can I ask?
Nice, Chef.
Okay, Chef.
I have a question about marbling.
Yeah.
يلا go ahead. تفضل.
Yeah. How we can know that marbling is gonna be perfect for the cooking?
Well, until the animal is brought, there are some people I've heard that can look at a cow when it's walking around. Now you will see some confirmation, like when you see, if you look at that presentation, you call it the super cow there. It's called the specimen. That was a $1.5 million bull, okay? And his offspring will produce usually a higher grade of marbling, and they can actually try and judge that before the animal's gone to slaughter. But until the animal's gone to slaughter, that's when you decide where the marbling is. But you try and control that by reducing stress, because when an animal is stressed out, it burns up marbling. So first of all, reduce stress, super happy environment, and then very, very slowly changing its diet and adding more from grasses to a high carbohydrate diet for that last 100, 120 days, and increasing that carbohydrate. Just like us, when we drink a lot of sugar, you know, they're eating corn and barley and oats and all those good things that have carbohydrate, and those animals put on fat. And in a very, very low stress environment, they'll put on great marbling, and they'll get that's where you'll be not guaranteed, but you know, when you're after beef, you buy marble beef, because I know that it's been in a stress-free environment, and that's what I'm after all the time.
Yeah, thank you, Chef John. And also, I want to remind you and add to what Chef John said. This is why we say US beef is finished on grain or grain-fed, because the cattle is finished on a very balanced grain feeding, right, Chef John?
Yes,
this
course.
Is why
and
you're
people,
talking about the carbohydrates, the corn, and other roughage. Yeah.
We can spend. You can call me anytime. We can spend hours on any of these subjects. Okay. I love talking about beef, and I love talking about energy and all these things. But we got to get back. I just want to show you one more. There's our Denver short rib down here, and right on top, you see this muscle right here. That's called. It's a little the chuck flat, and it's almost like the. Oh my God, I'm losing well, there's another one, the flank steak, the chuck flank actually, and it's like the flank steak that comes down here. They give you one for free in the chuck as well, and if you pull that off as well, you can pull that. This is called the chuck flank, yeah. Just like the flank steak, it has the same structure as that. And if you so if you look at that, let me clean it up a little bit more here. I got so much meat here. Yeah. I'm going to clean it up a little bit more here, just a tiny bit. Now, again, none of this would ever go in the garbage. I'm going to put all this into a burger later on. I'm going to show you a burger that I did earlier, but none of this would ever go in the rubbish. We would use all this for either stock or soup, or, you know, we're making demi-glace in the restaurant all the time. So all of this would always be used. So I'm going very, very fast here because we don't have a lot of time, and I want to show you as much as I possibly can. So I'm just doing it super, super fast. So.
Chef, I have a question from one of the students asking, what is the best way to cook the flank?
Hot, like you cook it very, very hot, because you can see it's not very thick, but you season it. I like to season it very, very heavy with like a Cajun spice, or you could do a cumin and black pepper and salt, and roast it over super, super high heat, and then slice that up, and then with a little bit of lemon juice and olive oil. Oh my God, let's do that right now. That would be super fun. I'll do it right now. This flank, I have a piece going earlier. I got another stove there. My cumin is up there, but you could do this one for sure. We'll do a couple of pieces of that. So we're going to take that. We have our other steak. I'm going to show you a couple of different dishes. So there's our ribeye steak, our flank steak, and then we have our Denver rib right here. So now that's really so amazing. Really, look at that. Look at that, right? That's what you call. Waka, waka, waka. Look how good that is, right? That's what we're talking about right there. And that's what, you know, you've got success, right? You know, that's how, and that makes me feel good, because I raise chickens. I know this animal was raised properly, because it cannot produce this kind of marbling when it's not raised properly. That's what I love about beef. It's not like chicken. It's not like any other animal. It's so unique that it shows itself, it shows its nature on a plate. Like when you cut that piece of meat, it shows itself to you 100%. It's really, really amazing. That's why I'm always always shocked. So we have our flank, we have our ribeye, we have our Denver short rib. I would usually cook that slowly, but we're going to take a couple of slices off it and do it. Hopefully I won't set off my fire alarm. But and I also have a little bit of brisket. Hopefully we'll have some time to do that as well. But you could braise that as well and turn that into a soup as well. So we'll do a flank steak. We'll season that like crazy. Do I have a little bit of here's a little I make up my own spices. So I have a little bit of a Tex-Mex spice. Put that on it. And you know, we're only our ingredients, right? I'm not a miracle worker. I can cook pretty good, but when you have a good ingredient, it makes it a lot easier to cook really well. You know, that's what makes a difference is a really, really good ingredient. And when you have U.S. beef, you have that consistency because of the feed and because of like Lina was when they were saying they gradually increase the amount of food that they're eating and the amount of carbohydrates in their diet, but also they actually walk around every day on horseback or on ATV sometimes, usually on horseback because it's a little bit quieter and the animals don't like it too loud, but they'll actually go around every day and watch the animals and see how they're doing. It's really amazing. So I don't know if you can hear that. There's a little bit of a sizzle coming off the pan there. So it's on super full blast here. I got to turn everything up and warm it up. But
Chef, we have a question from one of the students. Can I ask?
Okay. Yes, of course.
He is asking that don't you think that much spices could affect the taste of the meat?
Well, definitely 100%. But what are we cooking, right? That's what it depends on, right? When you're going to go low and slow cooking, then you're going to have time to let that beef speak for itself, right? So you don't have to add a lot of spices. But because I'm doing this so fast and so quick, and I'm doing a little bit of I'm doing a recipe right now. I'm going to shave this up and put it on a taco. So you know, that's my gift is if I'm having a steak, salt, oil, butter. That's it. Okay. When I'm having a proper ribeye steak, that's all I ever want to have. Salt, and I always finish with a little bit of fresh salt afterwards, and that makes all the difference. But it depends what recipe you're going for, right? Like Lina said, I'm a global beef ambassador. I spent time in Jordan. I used to live in Bangkok for a couple of years, so I'm going to do like a sort of an Asian take on a taco as well, and then I have some brisket that I braise for a couple hours as well, and turn that into a soup, and that's got some ginger and fish sauce and lemongrass and all those good things. So it just depends what flavors you want to go for, right? It's up to you completely. But again, I'm a purist. When I'm talking about, if you're talking about a burger, I usually don't put a lot of stuff in. I'm going to show you a secret burger that I don't show a lot of people, but I'm going to do it for you today. If you use a chuck though, because a lot of people just use trimming for a burger. I don't like using trimming because it doesn't have a lot of flavor. If you use whole muscle, like a chuck or a brisket, when you grind your own burger and you're picking, because the chuck has so many muscles, imagine that, right? This is a chuck. This is a very affordable piece of meat. Imagine that going into a burger, right? That's an amazing, amazing
perfect burger.
It'd be fantastic. So it all depends on what you're trying to go for. It really depends on what you're going for. And then I would, again, now that I'm going with that, I would go with the burger. I wouldn't need to add any seasoning at all to my burger, right? Because I would just salt and pepper on top, because you don't need to add anything like some people put in like cooked onions on the inside of the burger. I don't put any salt on the inside of my burger either, because I like a really natural sort of flavor on my burger. But I'm going to show you a special one, like I said. So I just use a little bit of fresh salt. If I'm going to cook the steak at the same time too, we're going to cook a whole bunch of different meats. And my pan is super hot, but I only put a little bit of oil on my steak. I don't actually put oil on my pan, because there's enough oil and enough fat coming out of the steak to come out. So now you can hear it. I'm going to have to turn this fan on a little bit so I don't set off my fire alarm.
Chef.
Yeah.
you cook the meat?
Sorry, I missed you.
You cook it medium rare or well done?
Me, I prefer medium rare medium. Because that's where you need to be about 42 degrees, like just above medium rare, to try and get those juices flowing and all that marbling start melting. That's
Okay.
where you want to be.
Yes, yes.
Anything below that, like some people like blue steak, it's not really my thing. But if people are paying, I cook any way they want. You know, I've cooked beautiful prime USDA prime ribeyes. I've cooked them well done for people, right? I've cooked them black and blue. They call it Chicago style, burnt on the outside and rare on the inside, right? It's all about what people want, right? I'm trying to make people happy, and if that's what makes them happy, that's what it's all about, right? I'm
Yes,
trying
of
to
course.
trying to continue this animal's life and make sure that it led a good life and finish it the way that it was meant to be finished. But sometimes someone wants to have it more well done, and you know, that's the world we live in, right? I'm not there to educate people, you know, especially now restaurants all over the world are in dire straits, right? It's very, very difficult time for restaurants. So, you know, I believe in taking a lot of time and energy and putting that in my food and serving really good food that I can stand behind. And that's why I'm so proud to talk about the US Beef and the United States Meat Export Federation, because I spent 10 years when I was living in, I lived in London for 8 years, and before, and just that, for those 8 years and after that, I would go back and forth every year to the United States and do a whole beef tour around the Midwestern United States and see it. What I've learned here is all about what I've learned on American farms, and I've seen it firsthand. It's the most peaceful and great places to be, and I'm so happy to be a part of it because I know how sustainable it really is. There's a lot of buzzwords right now, and people are talking about, how much food they should be eating or how much meat they should be eating. I think people should eat more beef, but better beef, and that would change the whole system. We need to slow the food system down and put a lot more time and energy into it and produce beef of the highest quality, because that's what it's all about, is making sure that those animals made a sacrifice and putting our energy and our stuff into it. And that's what I'm really, really happy to stand behind. And I know that's what happens in the United States, because I've been there with my own, I've been there and I've seen it. So here we have that flank is almost done on the back there. Now we have a little bit of stuff I got ready earlier. So we got these nice tacos now. They're available everywhere. You could have also a nice, Lina, what's that bread that we had when we were in that restaurant in Beirut, and we had that bread cooked on the inside of the oven?
Which one?
The bread, you know, the thin bread.
Taco. Tortilla.
Sorry, Chef John,
I guess it's pita bread.
Pita bread, you mean?
You can do a pita, but it was fresh though. It was fresh cooking on the side of the stove.
It was fresh. It was mar'ouk.
Okay.
We call it mar'ouk bread.
Nice.
The dough was fresh, and we put it in the oven, and it was thin,
bubbles.
right?
Exactly.
Thin, yeah.
So
we call it mar'ouk.
You could do the same thing with this, right? I have some coriander, some red onions, some green onions. I have a taco, but you could use that bread as well. It would be just as lovely. It would be super fantastic. So now I'm going to bring this pan over here. I want to show you. Look at that color, right? That's what I'm after. It's called the Maillard reaction, right? That's the caramelization of sugars, right? That's what we're after. All that corn, all that energy. That's caramelizing carbohydrate, sugar, flavor. So that's done now. I'm going to throw a little bit of butter in there, because everything is always better with butter. I'm just going to put it right on top of that, and I turned off the stove already. And then I'm going to come back to my other one. There's my chuck flank right there that I had earlier. And then I'm going to put this on the fire, directly on the fire. Make a little taco. You could do, like I said, you could do it more Middle Eastern style. I would probably do more Middle Eastern style. I would maybe do a little za'atar, or a little bit of olive oil and just lemon juice would be super fantastic. I'm gonna do a little bit of mayonnaise and a little bit of sriracha sauce because I like it spicy. And I just burn that on the stove for a second. And then you have a nice little plate there. And it's all about just keeping it simple and keeping it fresh and keeping it fast, right? When you have a good quality product, I don't add a lot to it. Like I said, I use a little bit of spices, but I think it accentuates it for this in this circumstance.
Chef, one of the students asking for how long we need to rest the meat after cooking it.
Well, this is a very good question. Very good question. There's a lot.
There is another question, Dareen.
There's a lot of debate on this. It all depends on how much juice you want to leave behind. Some people say wait 10 minutes and then the meat is almost cool. But I like to rest it for a few minutes. And remember, if you're in a restaurant, by the time you put it on a plate and the waiter comes down and it gets to a customer's table, it's been sitting there for about 10 or 12 minutes anyway. Now, if I'm after juices, like when I eat steak, I eat it with French fries or mashed potatoes or bread, and I want all that blood and juice and all that good stuff. I want that on my plate. I want to enjoy that. So people say half the amount of time cooking, but just a few minutes is long enough. We're taking a little bit of rest right here, so it's only just a few minutes, nice and easy. Another question?
Yeah, I saw someone asking about the GMO, right?
Yes.
في حدا سأل عن GMO يمكن
أحمد عوض الله.
أحمد إيه.
Yes, Ahmed, please go ahead.
Chef John, we have another question from Ahmed. Okay, yes, Ahmed, please go ahead.
Why don't we modify the meat or the veal to get the most of the meat or the marbling level?
They can't, right? They can only do that through genetics, right? They do it through genetic selection, right? Like that cow sorry.
Will it affect the taste badly?
Oh, well, I can they don't do any genetic modification of the animal itself. All they do is do like that cow, that super bull. He'll have maybe 100,000 children, right? They only need very, very little to do. So it's not they're not clones. They're just it's called IVF, right? In vitro fertilization. The animals, it's just they take the best animal and they try and reproduce it as much as possible. Now there is something that happens in Australia and Japan and some in Thailand, and they make it called meltique, and they actually inject fat into the meat to make it look more marbled. And I've tasted that, and I'm not a fan of that at all. I would rather have good meat than try and make meat good. It's really not my thing. I like natural beef. I was really scared. I think
all of us are with against the idea of injecting the meat with fat.
Oh my God!
Of course,
right? Yeah.
So scary. Now, if you're gonna put some, you could use the back of the brisket, which has a lot of fat. If you're using a piece of tenderloin, you can use a little bit of this fat, and you can use that as a crust or something like that. Yeah, okay. Use the fat from the animal, but don't inject other animals' fat into it. No, that doesn't make any sense. So now you can see I got my beautiful piece of meat, and I've been turning it here and letting it rest for a bit. But again, these you can see the lines on the meat are going up and down, up and down. So I want to cut across of it to make sure that I have the tenderness. So because this piece of meat is not, this isn't a steak cut. This isn't considered to be a super tender piece of meat. But if I treat it properly, I cook it properly over high heat, and if I cut it properly, that means against the grain, and try and get a nice cut against the grain, then I can increase my tenderness and make sure that I'm helping it as much as I possibly can. So I'm just gonna try and get a picture here, show you guys how good it looks right now. So I don't see any good color, but it looks. Can you see the nice, beautiful color there? Perfecto. So I'm gonna move that right there. I'm gonna use all that nice sauce that I have on my cutting board. And all I do is mix that up a little bit. I put a little bit of mayonnaise and sriracha on my taco. I put a little bit of that. I put you know, a little bit of cilantro. And the nice thing about, you know, the nice thing about when you cook with Asian style, and it's very forgiving, but also, you know, those light, fresh flavors of coriander or cilantro, they're very light flavors, and they cut the fat, right? So you have a nice fattiness from the American beef, but when you add a little bit more, those citrus notes and everything like that, it makes it really, really light and fresh, and makes it really, really tasty, you know? And then you have a nice little
next time you'll be with them in Jordan.
Yes, it have to.
Yeah,
we need to taste this.
And a little bit of fresh lime on top, and then you just pick that up. I'm not going to eat it because I'm not going to be able to talk, but you know, that's you get 2 of those, and this is from a chuck. I guarantee you, I sell a couple of tacos, I sell 2 Delmonico steaks, that chuck is totally paid for. I still got 10 kilos of meat to make money off of, okay? Well, this is about business and making money as well, right?
We can see a lot of hearts on the screen now.
Yeah.
What was that? Oh.
Dareen, repeat what you said.
Yes, I said we can see a lot of hearts on the screen from the students, Chef.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Chef John, we have 3 questions as well.
Oh, okay. Ask away. Ask away. Tell me.
All right, Muhammad, what was your question about? Muhammad asked about whether if they cook the meat, it will kill the germs. Is there a certain temperature for cooking the meat to kill the germs? Right? Was that your question, يا محمد? محمد هذا السؤال اللي سألته؟ ما بعرف. حدا عم يسمعني؟
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, it was the question. مظبوط.
Okay. ما سمعت رد علي. So I'm sorry. I repeated my question. Muhammad is asking if is there a certain temperature to cook the meat in order to kill the germs and bacteria?
Anything over 140 degrees, it would be a safe cooking temperature, right? That's what they would be recommended if you're cooking a whole muscle. There are different recommendations. If you're buying ground beef, they should be cooked a little bit higher. But again, it depends on where you get your ground beef from. Personally, I think the cheaper the burger, the more you cook it. The more expensive the burger, the less you can cook it, because you know if you're paying top dollar for a burger, someone has put a lot of time and a lot of care into that burger, and it makes a big difference. So and then you would be safe and right there. So I just want to show you again. Look at this. This is a ribeye steak here that I took off the Delmonico. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And then I put the butter on top of it.
Mouth watering.
You talk about, it is. My mouth is watering right now. And you talk about resting steak. Look at all that juice there. Like, I know you want to rest a steak, but all that juice is all flavor. So, you know, you try and give it to the customer in some way or shape or form, is make sure that customer has all that flavor somehow, you know. It's really important.
Also, there is another question from Tala, right? Tala, did you ask a question?
No.
There was a question, but I didn't write down the name.
It's Rehab, actually.
Rehab?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's asking, she have 2 questions. I'm going to ask the first one. Okay. The first one is how to know if the meat needs to get to the oven after grilling it, and when to know if it needs only a few minutes on both sides. I guess Chef John already answered that when he said about the quality of the meat. No, it's up to the quality of the meat. The cheaper the meat, the more you need to put it on the grill. And
the cheaper the burger, actually.
Yes, the burger,
because the ground beef ground beef needs higher degrees of cooking temperatures.
And Chef John is having our steak now.
You are. Bon appetit.
I knew how good it was going to be. So good, so good. Just so much flavor.
Yeah.
We get the caramelization.
Muhammad,
and then you get the corn. So about your question, is there's if you want, I can send you. If you send me an email on my presentation, as an email, I can send you a cooking guide, which is in a commercial restaurant. We would always use a probe thermometer, depending on how you want your steak cooked. We would cook it the temperature you want. A really fun way to do it, if you want to do it, I think there's a way to do it on your face. I don't know what that is, but if you open your hand up all the way, don't try and stress it out all the way. But if you go like this, that's what a rare steak feels. Just feel right there, a rare steak. And then you go here, that would be medium rare. And then you go here, medium well, and then well done. You can see it's very, very firm there. And that's how you do it. So you go different fingers, and you feel that meaty part of your hand. And then again, we would always use a probe in a restaurant, but if you want to do it this way, you can always do it that way. It's a little bit of fun, right? And then for me, you cook 10 or 20,000 steaks and you get used to it. And then you just cook because the way it looks when it's done.
How many steaks you said? 20,000?
Oh, probably more than that, Lina. I don't even know. I probably remember about 99% of them because, you know, when I go to the grocery store now, it takes me about 25 minutes to pick out a steak because it's like a wine. I believe steak is like wine. People say the idea of wine is terroir, is where does a wine come from? When you drink that wine, where was what kind of grape it was, and what side of the river it sat on, and what country it came from, and all from Beirut. There's the famous the wine from Beirut, and you should be able to taste that it's a Lebanese wine because that's where it comes from, and that's what I think about beef is the same thing. Is every piece of beef tells a story, you know, and the only thing about beef is you get two sides of the animal, but you know, you can eat chicken all day long, and are you going to see a big difference in the flavor of chicken? Not a lot. Yes, when you do a corn-fed chicken or you do a slow-raised chicken, it's you can get a lot of flavor, but every single cattle is different. And the United States, even with all the genetics, even with all the farming techniques, even with all that care and attention to detail, they can produce about 3 to 4% prime, and that's depending on the season as well, because weather affects stress as well, right? When you come up to September, October, November, December, the animals are outside. It's the fall in North America. The evenings are cool, and they love eating that time of the year, right? It makes all the difference. It's really, really a good time of year to be eating steak. So every part of an animal, every part of the animal, and every part of the animal's life makes a big difference as well. It's really, really amazing.
I think we have a question, right?
Yes, they want to explain in Arabic what the chef did in his hand, so I'm going to explain it in Arabic. شباب الدنس تبعت اللحمه في طريقه كثير سهله بنستخدم ايدنا عشان نحكي عن الدنس تبعت اللحمه. هلا يوجوالي احنا بنستخدم الثرمومتر او البروب عشان تكون بيرفكت، بس هاي الطريقه سهله ومع الوقت بتصير اسهل عليكم، اللي هي القطعه هاي. شايفين هاي قطعه الجهه هاي اللي بالايد؟ اوكي، لما نعمل هيك نحط هذول الاصبعين على بعض ونحطهم نحس بايدنا. جربوا try it by your hand. هذه الدنس رير. اوكي، اذا بنعمل هيك حسي هون تعال try it here. اوكي، هون this is medium. بتصير تشد. this is medium. هيك medium well. هون well done which is يعني there is no flavor.
بتكون اساس شيء. لما نحكي عن الطراوة اللحمة، لما نحكي عن التندرنس of the beef، طراوة اللحمة دايما لما تكون رير بتكون أطرشي، مثل ما كأنه عاملين إيدنا هيك. إذا بتكبسوا هون بتشدوا بتحسوا بطراوة. مجرد ما نلقط الإبهام مع هذا الإصبع بتبلش تشد تقسى، وكل ما رحتوا لآخر إصبع، الإصبع الصغير بتصير أقسى. فلما مشان هيك نحن منشجع على انه ما نطبخ اللحمه ويل دان، لانه كل ما كانت ويل دان بتكونوا انتم عم تخسروا من طراوتها، مش لانه اللحمه مش طريه، لانه طريقه الطبخ، طريقه الطهي خسرتها شوي من الجوسز يلي فيها ومن طراوتها. بقى هيدا الفكره من كل هيدا الاكسرسايز اللي عم نعمله. في عندكم اسئله ثانيه؟ Do you have other questions قبل ما
أنا عندي سؤال.
تفضل.
Chef John.
Yes.
First of all, I have to thank you for this information. It was very, very great information about this. And I want to ask you how to make it, if I cook a burger, how to make it fully juicy.
I'm gonna get to that, and you give me 5 minutes, we'll get there, okay, buddy? I promise you.
Okay, and there is another question for you.
Yeah, tell me.
Yes.
What other question?
In America, there's using a wine, red wine for steak, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I wanna make it a flavor natural. I mean, I don't want to use wine. Maybe we can use another juice.
Yes,
to make it flavor.
Yeah. Good question, Chef Ali.
And the flavors that you're asking me are in here, and are the exact flavors that are in the burger. So we'll jump ahead to the burger, and then we'll talk about how to make things juicy, and also how to improve the juiciness, but also that beefy flavor as well, without adding any kind of alcohol to it. So what we want to try and do is, when you describe beef, and when they talk about, one second. When they talk about beef, they talk about umami, right? It's the ground beef is the fifth flavor, right? That's the flavor of beef. It's hard to describe. It's oyster, it's shiitake mushroom, it's Parmesan cheese, it's soya sauce, it's glutamates that affect you in the back of your throat, of your teeth right here, in your flavor palate. And when you sort of try and target those flavors, you get more flavor. So there's a ground chuck, right? So that's 80% and 20%. So first of all, if you're going to make a great burger, use whole muscle, okay? Because if you take lean trim and you throw in fat from another animal or from other stuff, you mix that together. When you cook that, all that fat comes right back out because you've added to the meat. If you take marbled beef, now chuck is a very, very affordable muscle. If you take marbled beef that has fat within it, like I said, the chuck has 20% fat. If you grind that up, you have a perfect burger, fat content wise, 80% lean, 20% fat, and then you have a juicy burger. And that's how you improve the juiciness. Now, if you want to improve the flavor of burger, again, I don't tend to overwork my burgers. So, and I don't like my burger to be like meatloafy. I don't like that. I like a nice natural texture. So in my burger, I use a little bit of Worcester sauce, which is high in glutamate, also has anchovies. So that adds a lot of flavor. A little bit of Worcester sauce, a little bit of soya sauce, because that adds my sodium, that's my salt, but it doesn't make my meat stick together like glue. When you add salt to a burger, you glue it back together. So just a couple of dashes. And then if I haven't sent it, I think my recipe for the burger is on that presentation, but if not, you can reach out to me. I'll give you my recipe for the perfect burger. And this is the sort of the secret ingredient. Don't tell anybody, okay? I'm gonna do it really fast. There, you saw that, right? I showed you my secret ingredient. I'll give it to you one more time.
Is that honey?
No. It's fish sauce.
Fish sauce. Yes, I know that. Yeah.
Fish sauce.
Yeah. Fish sauce is one of the highest in glutamates, which is MSG, which is naturally occurring MSG, but the flavor of beef. So whenever I do my, if I was making a stock, and
that's a cooking hack.
Yeah, if I make my beef stock, I would always add, like, I would sear my meat in the pan because I want to have the color. Because if I'm not going to add wine, you have to build your flavor. So you sear your meat and get all that color in there. You add your mirepoix, your carrots, your onions, your celery. You sear that really, really hard. You get lots of burnt flavor in there. And then I would deglaze with soy sauce, fish sauce, and then I would add my water to that. And then I have a concentration of beef flavor already. And then I start with that as and I would reduce that down. I would boil that up. If I had my bones and my beef trim, I would do that. So again, you saw me doing a little bit of shaky there. We're only talking about 30 grams per kilo of meat. It's a very, very small amount because, like I said, I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to a burger. So I don't like to add a lot of stuff to it. But when I do it, some people add eggs to it or breadcrumb to it. But I think that sort of dilutes it to it, and I don't want to change the burger. So what I do is I try and get some of the air out of the inside of the burger just by manipulating it really, really quickly. That's really all you need to do. And then I would form it into a nice patty, and then it would go in the refrigerator, right? It's a very, very quick and simple process. Some people would spend a lot more time or pressing it, or I always grind my burgers twice. So I always start, if I'm doing a whole muscle like that, I would grind first under 8 mil, and then I would season the meat, and then I would grind it again under a 4 mil, and I would do it 2 times over. And then that would be it. So, and then people do like big burgers, like if you like a thick burger to make it nice and juicy, but also the other problem you have is surface area. So sometimes I like smash burgers, like a very thin burger, smash burger, and a couple of those. And then you can actually brush that with some mustard or some other flavorings if you wanted to add more flavorings on top of that. But if you do 2 smash burgers, you get 4 times the size, right? So you have more and more beef flavor. So that makes a big difference as well. So I'm going to cook the burger in a second. I'm just going to let that pan warm up for a second. And then from the other part of the muscle there, I did it earlier. I've got a pressure cooker. So I got one of those air fryers and the pressure cooker. Or if you want to do it slowly overnight, you can just simmer it for a few hours. But I had a piece of brisket here that it's barely holding together, that I seared off. And it's too bad I can't show you the juices because it's all really, really golden. But you can see I put a really, really hard sear on that, and I cooked that for a couple of hours. And then I'm going to show you. Okay, here I got an idea to show you the juice that came in with it. So I used just a little bit of water with this, a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of fish sauce, and then I put some onions and some ginger in there.
Chef John, may I interrupt you?
You may.
One of the gentlemen or ladies, I don't remember. Oh, that's the sauce.
So you can see the golden color, right?
Yeah, they raised the question of what was the addition of fish sauce to the burger. Let me answer the question. It's monosodium glutamate, MSG, right?
It's naturally occurring MSG.
Exactly.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So that was the question. Another question that Chef Ali raised, he wants to know what you substitute wine in case you're doing a steak, because usually when you cook and you add wine to the steak, it gives it a very, very nice flavor. So if you can't serve the steak with wine due to some guests won't be able to have alcohol.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
So what was the substitute for the wine?
You make a stock with those.
Yeah.
You have to make a stock with those ingredients, with the fish sauce and everything.
Yes, because one of the students suggested adding white or red vinegar, but this wouldn't give the same.
And it's also made from grapes, right? And it's also fermented as well. So you have to be careful, right? Because sometimes there's some in the process of making vinegars, right? You can't use a red wine vinegar. You have to make a clear vinegar. So it depends. which one you want to use. So you got to be a little bit careful. You can buy de-alcoholized wine. You could use a little bit of grape juice, or you could use, if you want, again, a little bit of fresh tomato juice. You can add a little bit of fresh tomato if you want instead of that. I would use a stock always with a little bit of fresh stock, right? The beef stock that I've made for the purpose. So if I was doing, say, like a steak with a mushroom sauce, right? A steak with a red wine and mushroom sauce would be a very, very traditional thing to deglaze your pan with red wine and add mushrooms to it and maybe a little bit of cream. Instead of doing that, I would saute my mushrooms. I would deglaze. I would make my stock, but I would throw all my mushroom trim in with my stock when I was making my stock. So I would already have those depths of flavors. And then when I'm making my steak, I would cook my steak in the pan just like I did before. And then all those flavors that are in my pan, I would just like this is. These are all. I didn't add any wine to my steak, right? I cooked this steak, and I added a little bit of butter. That's it, butter. You don't. Yes, you can add mushrooms. You can add. You can try and change it, but if you have a great product, like all that golden brown juice, a little bit of butter. You don't need. If you wanted to add a little bit of a little pinch of vinegar just to try and break the acidity a little bit, you could do that. But do you need to if you have a really great steak? Yeah, you can. But if you want to, again, a little bit of stock in some way, shape, or form that you made prior to that with beef bones, good high quality bones, or all the trim, right? All of this trim that you don't put in your burger, you use that, you sear that off on a very, very hot pan. You add a little bit of soy sauce and the fish sauce and a little bit of water, and you make a foam, a stock out of that, and you just throw that in your pan in the last second, and you add that. So there's a burger. You can see it. I'm just cooking that, getting a little color on that. That's my fish sauce burger. Really, it's nice and easy. And then I got a nice like a cheesy onion bun, I would always try and get it in there. Burgers, I like to have mine medium, never below medium, because I want all that juice in there. I don't want to have fat that hasn't melted yet. I want to have that all up. And then why I always grind my burger twice is because when I eat a burger, I don't want to see people picking their teeth and picking that meat out. Some people only grind it one time. I like my burger super chunky. It's a steak burger, but they're picking meat out of their teeth because they didn't grind it properly. So I would always grind my burger properly, and that way. There's a lot of things that make me crazy in restaurants, and one of those things when I see someone go, as soon as they eat my burger, they reach for a toothpick, right? I don't think I've done my job properly, I feel guilty, when people do that. So. Okay, so we have a burger coming in a couple of seconds, and then we're gonna do a little soup there, and then we're gonna ask we'll talk some more about great beef, but that's 4 dishes in less than an hour. I think that's pretty good. Pretty hungry. I'm gonna have to eat all this afterwards.
Actually, we are hungry now, Chef.
I can smell something.
I'm super hungry now.
I can smell it from here, man.
Guys, did you have your iftar tonight?
Yes, we did.
So you see, Chef John, all of them had their iftar right after before our webinar.
Good. I'm glad you guys all celebrated tonight, and again, we're living in a crazy world now, so remember, everybody, wash your hands, be safe, and be healthy, and take care of each other, because
I'm hungry already.
Crazy times we live in.
I'm going to answer Ahmed Awadullah. Ahmed, Chef John said that he ground the beef 2 times to have the best texture.
Yes.
Yeah, the best texture as well. So my burger bun, I used to make something called beef butter, and I would take all my grinds, and again, I would saute it in the pan. I would add my fish sauce, my soy sauce, and then I would add butter, and I would cool it down, and then I would strain it off, and then I would take that butter and cool it down, and then I would put that butter underneath my burger and add more beef butter into my flavor of my burger. It's about just adding more and more flavor and adding depth of flavor, right? So we have, you know, a great beer.
I'm getting the same question from Salim. Right?
Could you just explain it in Arabic? If you can, please.
Yeah, Chef John, I want to explain to them. I'm not gonna explain anything.
That's really, really great. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Again, can we see it again, Chef? We didn't see it.
Yes, of course.
Oh.
And that's got a nice cheesy bun on it. Oh, baby.
Chef, what is this green slice? I can't see it.
It's pickles, right?
Yeah,
it's pickles.
What's the pickle? Is it
like a blend, but a sweet pickle.
Cucumber?
I make my own. And then next summer you can come. I make my own pickles at my farm.
So this is your cucumber.
No, next time, Lina. It's too early for cucumbers here.
Pickles.
I know. So what's the pickle?
Just a regular cucumber pickle.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Nothing crazy.
So Salim, where is Salim? Salim, did you ask again about the fish sauce? سألتنا مرة تانية عن الفيش صوص.
يس بس عشان كان النت بعلق ما وصلتني الفكرة تمام.
سالم ما عم وينك أنت؟ ما عم بقدر أعرف وينك. أوكي سالم شفتك هلا. سالم أمني؟
يس شو.
أوكي سالم الفيش صوص عم يستعملها شيف جون لحتى يضيف النكهة اللي بنقدر نحن ناخدها من شيء اسمه MSG أو مونوصوديوم جلوتاميت، لأنه المونوصوديوم جلوتاميت بيكون موجود بشكل طبيعي بصلصة السمك، مش بيكون مصنع، يعني أنت عم تاخده من مصدر طبيعي. لا أنت فيك تضيف مونوصوديوم جلوتاميت مصنع، بينما بإضافة صلصة السمك بتكون أنت عم تاخد هيدي المادة اللي هي طبيعية متواجدة بشكل طبيعي بهالصلصة لتعطيك هي هيدي بسموهم هول المونوصوديوم جلوتاميت بسموهم مثل فود انهانسرز، يعني بيحسنوا النكهة.
تمام شيف.
فهمت علي؟ يعني كان وضحت لك النقطة؟
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. أهلا وسهلا.
There's also a very good discussion about like you can actually all over Asia you buy a product called Ajinomoto. Ajinomoto is actually a powdered MSG, and in Thailand when they take out chicken wings from the fryer they season it with MSG. It's crazy. That's a bit too much now. A little bit of fish sauce, a little bit of backup flavor, I got no problem with. Okay, using it as a season, we're gonna draw. But there is a great discussion on YouTube. You can watch it about David Chang from Momofuku in the United States. He talks about the myth of that has been perpetrated around MSG. It's a naturally occurring. Parmesan has tons of it. Anchovies has a ton of it. Fish sauce is made of anchovies. That's why there's no artificial MSG. It's just a naturally occurring flavor of glutamates that are from the ocean. So
thank you, Chef. Exactly. This is what I told him in Arabic.
So I just threw in that.
So Chef, tonight so far we covered how many cuts? We covered the flank.
And well, that's all from the chuck, right? You have the
I know. Yeah, but in order to go muscle by muscle, so the chuck is the huge muscle, the big muscle. It's the subprimal cut.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
I want to explain I got to explain to them in Arabic. I'm summarizing with you the chuck, the muscles that you have covered, so that I give them the summary in Arabic.
All right. The chuck and the brisket as well. I talked a lot about the brisket, and that piece that I just showed you is the brisket I cooked. I had to slow cook it because brisket takes a long time to cook.
Yes. So you did not smoke it. You just slow cooked it.
I slow cooked, pressure cook. So
pressure cook.
Yes, exactly.
Because now it's very trendy, and even in Lebanon and in Jordan, the smoking of the brisket.
Oh, I love barbecue.
Yeah, they believe it's something fancy,
and it became a trend now, Lina.
Yeah, I'm telling him it's becoming trendy everywhere. So your method is Your method doesn't have to do anything with the smoking because brisket can be cooked in a different way.
Exactly. Don't get me wrong. I love smoking brisket as well, but there's a lot of things you can do with a brisket. You can stew it. Of course. We make an Irish stew that with brisket. I put brisket in my burger.
They don't really have to limit themselves to one method of cooking.
Not at all.
And guys, let me tell you, بتحكيكم بالعربي. شيف جون استعمل قطعة التشاك يلي هي قطعة بتجي سبرايمل، قطعة رئيسية بتجي من الكتف والرقبة. يعني نحن عم نحكي عن قطعة كبيرة، فهي القطعة بيطلع منها عدة عضلات، في عدة عضلات بتطلع منها. الجهة يلي بتكون من جهة الرب آي وفي جهة بتكون من جهة الرقبة. فإذا لاحظتوا إنه عطاكم هو من كل الجهات. مثل ما بتعرفوا إنه نحن عنا الذبيحة بتكون مقسومة قسمين، يعني كل شيء بتشوفوه أنتم بيكون عنده جهة يعني من جنبين الذبيحة. فهو استعمل التشاك ليطلع لكم منها عدة عضلات، وكمان اشتغل على شيء اسمه البريسكت يلي هي بتكون بأسفل الصدر، بسموها لحمة الصدر. نحن عادة صار عندنا كتير مثل موضة هلا انه البريسكت بتنعمل مدخنة، بس شيف جون عم يقول انه البريسكت هو عملها على طريقة الضغط وعلى طريقة الطهي البطيء. يعني نحن ما لازم نكون محددين بطرق الطهي، لأنه في شيء بنسميه الفرساتيليتي تبع الكوكينج للحمة، لأنه كل قطعة لحمة ممكن نقدر نطبخها بعدة طرق. وأنتوا لما بعثت لكم أنا عن طريق شيف دارين بعثت لكم انفوجرافيكس، بعثت لكم شيء اسمه ماتشينج كوكينج ميثودز، أو الطرق عندكم إياها بالعربي وبالإنجليزي، صح شيف دارين؟ انتوا عندكم كل المراجع هيدي فيها تكون ريفرنس لكم ترجعوا تقروا عنها. وحتى شيف جون
نعم، وحتى رح نناقشها كمان بمحاضراتنا الجايه، لانه احنا we are talking about beef هلا.
Excellent، كثير حلو، very nice. Okay, Chef John, thank you. I took part of your.
No problem.
Can we see it again, please?
Oh yes, this part. Yeah, that's the brisket that I cooked. I cooked that really slow with some ginger and some garlic and some onions.
Oh my
God! Now we're gonna do a little double trouble with this.
Chef, you cooked this one in the pressure cooker?
Yes. Yeah.
So we can easily cook it in the pressure cooker here in Jordan because it's available all the time.
So now I'm gonna take off a little. See that fat? Look at that fat, right? I'm taking off the fat right there. So I have, let me see if I'm gonna have to tilt this, okay? Oh my God, this looks so good. Okay, so I'm gonna tilt. Oh, okay. Oh my God. So there we go.
Wow.
Okay, now hold on. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. So then we take the fat and we chop. That beef fat. Oh my God. And we put that beef fat on top. Oh,
now we are in business. That's wow.
Now we're talking. And then we're going to do a couple of, oh my God. See, look, it's just falling apart, right? Oh yeah. It doesn't matter. Like people are always, they think I'm funny because I always get excited about cooking meat. Like I've eaten so much meat, like I've cooked so much meat. I never, ever get bored of it. I love it every time because I just find it such a unique, you know, it's so unique. Like I said, every animal is different. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh, that's.
Chef, now we need to have our iftar again. We are starving.
You can see that.
You are tempting them. You are tempting them for another iftar.
Yeah. And then you can see that it's just falling off. Like it's just falling apart, right? Oh my God.
Chef John, it's best Japanese dash.
Like a dashi, exactly. You can make a little dashi with like a ramen, right? Like a ramen.
Great, Ali.
Yes. With a brisket ramen, right? USDA USDA brisket ramen, right? So good.
Right.
So good.
So
amazing.
Chef John, the brisket, what was the weight of this brisket? The
Like,
original weight before you.
Of that piece was only about 800 grams. So the whole piece was about 8 pounds, 9 pounds.
Yes, that's why usually when we get the brisket with because you can get the flat alone and the point alone. So
Yes,
if you get a full brisket, it's almost about sometimes 6 to 7 kg or more.
Yeah.
So they can't do it in a pressure cooker. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, then you just cut it into chunks, right? You cut it into chunks.
That's
no
why
I
wanted to make clear this to them. Normally, when we do their training in person, we did several trainings for the students of Luminus before. We brought the full brisket, right, Chef Darien? Yeah. It was a big piece.
It was the big one, the big piece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why if they want to do it in a pressure cooker, they have to cut it into smaller pieces. Yes. This is the original.
This is the one.
And the point, right? Like that.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. So خلوني أفصلكم قطعة البريسكت عادة الأساسية.
I had a piece from the point about that big. I put it in the pressure cooker. The other side, I had the other side, right? So there's the one side and then the other side, the flat and the point.
And the point.
Yeah.
Yes. So شيف جون أخذ قطع منها حوالي 800 جرام لأنه هي القطعة إذا بتطلعوا فيها بتشوفوا من جهة بتكون شكلها عامل مثل البوينت أو مثل الهضبة هيك وجهة تانية بتكون مسطحة. فلما يفصلون العضلتين عن بعضهم واحدة بتصير كتير مسطحة والتانية بيكون شكلها شوي منحنى يعني.
مثل الجبل.
بالضبط. فهو طبعا انتم لما بدكم تعملوها بالبريشر كوكر ما فيكم تحطوها كلها، بدكم تاخذوا جزء منها. فهو اخذ جزء 800 تقريبا جرام وعملها بالبريشر كوكر بالطريقة اللي هو حضرها. اوكي.
لينا في أحمد عوض الله عم يسأل for how long we can marinate the brisket.
And I wouldn't do anything more than 24 hours.
Not more than 24 hours.
No, if you're gonna, it depends what process you want to do, right? Because when you smoke foods, the drier the outside of the product, the more adhesion of smoke is gonna get, right? That's why we always dry out fish to make a smoked salmon. We make it. It's called the pellicle. So if I do a brisket, I would marinate it for 24 hours, and then I would hang it in the fridge and get it dry, and then throw it in the smoker. And then I know that all that smoke's going to hit it and it's going to stick to it like glue. So
I have a question here. I have a question, Chef. Which better for smoking brisket, to marinate it or to put a rub on it?
Well, I would like, people do the injecting with like, they brine it. If you're going to make more of like a smoked meat sort of thing, you're going to go much longer. You can brine it, but you're going to change the flavor of it. You're going to turn it, you use a pink salt or saltpeter, which is it's a preservative. It's got nitrates in it that turns it pink, like a smoked meat sandwich. You can do it that way. But for a brisket, for smoking, I like a dry rub on top. So I use a mustard
to have the crust.
I do a seasoning, super lashings of seasoning. Sometimes I just do salt and pepper. Sometimes I do like a paprika, salt, pepper, and a little bit of mustard powder as well. Depends how I'm feeling, right? It's all about cooking, and you know, I cut vegetables differently every time I cook them because I want to have a different texture, right? A lot of times I cook very differently just because I feel like cooking, and I want to have a different flavor and I cut my meat differently because I want to have a different texture when I'm eating it, just for fun, you know. It's about keeping food interesting.
Thank you so much, Chef.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you, Chef John. Any more questions? في حدا عنده سؤال؟ تفضل علي، تفضل.
Yes. Chef John, if I want to start a small business in America, how much price I need to do that?
How much money do you need to start a business in America?
غير محل علي.
Couple of hundred. Depends where you want. And right now, you know, I'm in Ontario right now, and we're in full lockdown right now. So I can't even. You can only get takeaway food right now. So it's the food trucks are doing very well. Takeaway food is doing very well, right? And the nice thing about brisket, and the nice thing about the food that is from the States is that it has very, very long shelf life. Right?
Yeah.
US beef has some of the best shelf life in the world, so that if you're not busy all the time, you actually have some extra time. The second thing is, because it's marbled, you can freeze it. It freezes exceptionally well, and as long as you defrost it very, very slowly, it does very, very well at that as well. The more marbling, the higher the quality of meat. The only reason they get that long on the shelf life is because of the food safety and the plant, right? The people that work in the different areas are kept separately. The microbiological count. They have what's called a positive release, that no beef can leave the plant until they've made a positive release that there's no E. coli presence at all. So that's how long they can get, 90 days in the bag, or sometimes 120 days of vacuum pack seal. And then, you know, after your 14 or 21 days or 28 days, you're already aged product. So, you know, you can take advantage. But if you want to open, depends what kind of restaurant you want to open, right? I don't want to do fast. I don't like fine dining. I like easy food. I eat noodles. I eat stir fries. I eat burgers. A great burger restaurant, like, I don't think you see burger restaurants opening all the time, man. There's always room for a great burger restaurant, right? Because people, you know, they have a great burger restaurant and they're like, we're going to open more. And then they're gonna like, you know what? We should use cheaper meat because we want to make more money. So we'll use trim, or we'll use Australian. No. We use different kind of meat, and the quality's not there anymore. And when you start cutting corners, then that's what happens,
You will lose.
Right? You know, when I was in London for 8 years, and we built a very successful restaurant business there. And when I left, they made some changes to where they got their beef, and they saw a 20% drop in sales because of the change in beef that they did. And it wasn't even the customers complaining, because even they were like, oh, we don't care if the customer complains. It was the accountants, because finally they're like, why aren't we making any more money? Because you changed the beef. Like, people aren't stupid, right? You make a donut, you make the hole bigger. You know, you can't cheat people anymore, right? Like, I can't make bad beef taste good. I'm not a magician, right? It doesn't happen. I can make great beef taste a little bit better, but, you know, and I want to, you know, at the end of the day, we don't want to be working too hard, right? So when you have a great product to start with, you just have to improve it a little bit, and, you know, treat it properly, treat it very, very gently, and make a great product. When you're starting with a bad product, it's very difficult to make something very, very good and to be authentic about it, you know? And that's why I love American beef, because it is an authentic product.
It's all about quality there.
It's all about quality and all about consistency, right? That's killer in the restaurant business, right? Because when someone comes for a meal, I usually eat the same thing, a Caesar salad and a burger. So, you know, I always eat the same food when I go into a restaurant. And if I go to a restaurant twice and I don't have the same meal, I never go back, because I always want it. I go to one restaurant for breakfast. My girlfriend, she got a little bit crazy. She wants to try different restaurants. But I'm like, I want to go all to this restaurant. Like, I'm in search for the perfect breakfast. When I found it, I want to go back for the exact same thing, because that's what I have. When I found the perfect burger, I want to go back to that perfect burger every single time. When I have a great steak, I want to go back to the great steak. If someone's not aging the product, because, you know, aging beef takes time and money, right? You got to put it in the fridge. You have to wait. You have to assess how long different meat should be aged. More marbling, you can age a little bit longer. You want a dry age. You want a wet age. You want to manage that meat. So it costs money. When you start skimping on it, that meat, you can't age it as long. You can't cook it the same way. And the customer can tell, because it's just not of the same quality, you know? And it's just, you can't cheat anymore.
Chef, as long as you mentioned that aged beef, we have a question about which is better, fresh or dry aged meat for burger, and is the cost much higher for the dry aged?
Yeah, dry age will be higher beef. You have to be careful when you're dry aging beef for a burger, because you run into issues with color changes. There's a whole thing with myoglobin, metamyoglobin, oxymyoglobin. It's the triangle when meat looks brown. This is a whole other 2-day discussion we can have about color changes in beef and the freshness of the beef. But I can tell you that from the research, there's lots of research available online. I can point you in the right direction. A lot of it was done by some of the best universities, funded by the United States Meat Export Federation as a nonprofit to understand what people's preference are. People prefer in a burger and a quick steak, they prefer not dry aged. When they're having a steak, like a bone-in steak, they prefer dry aged flavor. But most consumers, something like 80-85%, prefer a wet aged beef and that wet aged flavor because they've become accustomed to it now. So they're very much used to that. Now, I love dry aged meat and I've made a dry aged burger. You need to have fat. You don't have marbling. What happens is by dry aging, you're drying the product, you're reducing the amount of moisture in that beef, you're reducing the amount of water. You lose anywhere between 10 and 18%, depending on how dry your fridge is. I run a fridge at about 82% humidity to make sure that I control it. I don't want to lose too much. I don't want to gain too much. So you gotta lose that. You gotta concentrate the flavors. But if you don't have marbling on the inside of that meat when you dry age it, when you eat it, if you look at YouTube, you can watch videos of people's esophaguses. What you do when you chew is you surround your meat with saliva, and that helps it go down your throat and goes into your stomach. Now, if it's dry aged and you don't have any fat, you need to overproduce saliva, and you start going, man, this beef is dry, because you're having to produce so much saliva to swallow it. If you have marbled beef, that beef is already coated in fat, and it slides down your throat very, very easy, and you go, that beef is juicy. And it's your brain telling you, because you're either you don't have enough fat or you do have enough fat. We're very, very simple creatures. Lina was saying, how barbecue is becoming trendy. Barbecue is the oldest form of cooking on planet Earth, right? We've been smoking food for 10 million years. There's nothing better than I love than being with family and cooking meat over fire. It is the quintessence. It's what human nature is all about, I find. And when you do it with friends and the people you love, 10 hours, 12 hours smoking a piece of meat, sitting around talking about good food, that makes a great food. Question? Sorry.
Anyone who have another question? I think we lost Lina with the connection. Let me just check with her. Lina, are you there?
So again, that presentation I sent is probably, I think it's 70 pages.
Okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. Do you want me to finish?
Excuse me. Oh my God, that's a lot of chatting. Am I still talking? Can anyone hear me or no? Are we out? Is everyone leaving?
We still
Yes,
can hear
Chef.
you.
There is a question in the chat.
That's me. In the chat.
Which type of steak do you prefer and why?
Like the cut or the cattle?
Yes, I think the cut.
The cut, ribeye. Ribeye from the shoulder, because like right between the chuck and the ribeye, we have three muscles in the muscle. There's the spinalis dorsi, which is what they call the rib cap. There's a little complexus, and then the longissimus, which is part of the sirloin, which goes all the way down the back of the animal. So in that ribeye, right between the chuck and the shoulder, there's three muscles, and a bone-in American prime ribeye coming from a black Angus animal. It's the best thing. I would die very, very happy if I had that as my last meal. I can tell you that right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a brisket. I love smoked brisket. Like I love, we call it wet brisket. The point we would call wet brisket. Like I would almost have to kill for a wet brisket if it was that good. Like when it's a great barbecue, I love a wet brisket. It's just, it depends how I'm feeling, right? Sometimes I love, if I'm having tacos, I like flank. If I'm having a steak, it's a ribeye. So that's the answer to your question.
If I want to make a ribeye, do I need to sear it for 3 minutes for each side, then rest it for 3 minutes? Or it's a method?
No. It depends how you want to, first of all, it depends how you want to cook. So very, very hot pan to start, only salt and a little bit of vegetable oil, not olive oil, because it'll burn, right? I turn my steaks, okay? because I want to build up flavor and I want to cook it very, very evenly. So I turn my steaks even around my grill to make sure that I'm getting the hot part, and I'm building a crust on all the way around. That Maillard reaction. I'm always trying to get it more and more golden brown on the outside, and I turn my steaks so that I'm driving my juices on the inside. If you 10 minutes on one side, you start to see juices form on the top. Those juices are out of your meat. They'll never go back in. So I would turn my steak a few times, and then I would allow it to rest properly after that, with a little bit of butter and a little bit of fresh salt on top afterwards.
Of course, butter make the great food greater.
Exactly. Well, it comes from cows, right?
Yes, of course.
We're turning it back to nature, right? It's just use what it's given us to make it good.
Chef, I will ask the students if they have any more questions. Guys, do you have any more questions? Then I will take the opportunity to thank you very much for your time. It was great webinar. Thank you so much.
It's a lot of information, and anyone that wants to reach out for more information about the presentation, I only touched very, very briefly because we had so little time. But thank you all very much. And
of course, we will arrange something more detailed and more time as long as we are online. But hopefully, we'll see you in Jordan soon.
Oh, that would be very nice too. I loved Amman. It was a very, very beautiful city. I had a great time in Amman.
We will see you soon there.
I would love to
and
be
I
back.
would like to say thank you for Lina. She's not with us anymore. I don't know what's wrong with the network. And USMEF, of course, thank you so much, and see you soon. Thank you, Chef.
Thank you very much.
Say thank you to the chef.
Can I ask for a little question?
Oh, of course.
Yes, Ali.
Do you have any social media to follow you?
I have my Instagram. It's on the back of my presentation. My Instagram as well. I do my rant as well. Yeah.
It's on the presentation for Chef John.
My Facebook is John Cadieux.
Okay.
Join me on Facebook as well. You can ask me any questions anytime. I'm always open. You want to talk about beef anytime.
You're great. Thank you so much, Chef.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chef.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.